down in Australia investigating. Well, joining me now is the Australian High Commissioner, George Brandis. Mr. Brandis, thank you very much indeed for being with us on this busy day, and thank you for waiting a little bit.
Pleasure.
Hong Kong, I mean, obviously a great concern to Australia as well. What should we be doing about that situation?
Well, Australia is working cooperatively with the Foreign Office. Second only to the United Kingdom, we have the largest number of nationals resident in Hong Kong, and we are monitoring the situation very carefully. We're working collaboratively with your government and with other governments, and of course, like the UK government, we are calling for a reduction of tensions and a peaceful resolution of.
But I mean, there is a basic sort of diplomatic problem, isn't there? Given the power and the desire for economic ties with China, there's really not a lot we can do about the oppressive way that the Chinese government behaves.
Well, given the sensitivity of the situation, and particularly the events we're seeing at the moment, I think it might be best if I refrain from commentary beyond what I've already said.
Now, Brexit. What does Australia want from Britain in a new deal once we're liberated from our membership of the European Union?
Well, the circumstances in which the United Kingdom leaves the European Union are, of course, a matter for your domestic, political and parliamentary system. But having said that, Australia sees great opportunities for both of our countries in trade deals post-Brexit. There are obvious complementarities between the British economy and the Australian economy, with enormous people-to-people links.
But I mean, what will Australia be asking for that you haven't got now?
What we want, and what the UK government as well wants, as Liz Truss reaffirmed in Canberra 2 weeks ago, is a bold and ambitious and broadly cast FTA with as few impediments as possible. Now, the things about free trade agreements is that you start from the proposition that the wider the access, the better, but there are always domestic issues that create a series of qualifications or caveats to that aspiration, and that's why we'll have a negotiation which will commence as soon as Brexit occurs.
But I mean, Australia is a long way away. So what goods are we talking about that you want to sell us more of?
Well, we would like to see on both sides, not just us to you, but you to us as well, the widest market access possible. At the moment, you are our 8th largest trading partner. Given the close complementarities between the two economies, we think we can do better than that to the benefit of both sides.
Now, what about immigration? What about this idea which has been floated of simply saying, well, Australians can come to the UK after Brexit and vice versa? Open borders.
Once again, I don't want to use the phrase open borders because I think it evokes a lot of things that are inaccurate. But free trade agreements are about 4 things: goods, services, capital and people. The freedom of movement of people is always an important element in free trade agreements. I myself think that it would be terrific if, for example, young British people could spend a good part of their 20s living in Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, and Australians could come to London or other places in the United Kingdom.
Do they find it difficult at the moment? I mean, it seems to be quite a lot around.
Well, there are, but there are different visa categories and visa restrictions that it would be good to see relaxed.
And, it would be a clear statement, wouldn't it, that we would cease to have freedom of movement of European citizens coming here, but we would have presumably Australians and New Zealanders and freedom of movement that way. It would be sort of back to the future as far as the old empire is concerned, wouldn't it?
Well, I think that sort of language is antique, frankly. This is very much a future-focused agreement, but there are terribly close relationships between the United Kingdom and Australia and New Zealand, for that matter. The term that's often used is that it feels like family. It certainly does to me living in the United Kingdom. I know British people living in Australia say the same thing.
And you're not worried about being, flooded by POMs who want to get away from rainy Manchester and Brexit and all the rest of it.
We love British people in Australia, and they are very welcome.
But you've got very tight borders for some other people. I mean, are you saying you could take a lot more of us?
Well, it all depends on the terms of the agreement. I don't want to get ahead of the negotiation. Beyond the general proposition shared by both governments that we want an ambitious FTA, broad in scope, covering goods, services, capital and the movement of people.
High Commissioner, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Pleasure to be with you, Adam.